وسلم. وعلى ملة أبينا إبراهيم حنيفا مسلما وما كان من المشركين. اللهم ما أصبح بي من نعمة أو بأحد من خلقك فمنك وحدك لا شريك لك، فلك الحمد ولك الشكر. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الهم والحزن، وأعوذ بك من العجز والكسل، وأعوذ بك من الجبن والبخل، وأعوذ بك من غلبة الدين وقهر الرجال. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت، عليك توكلت وأنت رب العرش الكريم. ما شاء الله كان، وما لم يشأ لم يكن. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. أعلم أن الله على كل شيء قدير، وأن الله قد أحاط بكل شيء علما. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من شر نفسي ومن شر كل دابة أنت آخذ بناصيتها، إن ربي على صراط مستقيم. اللهم عافني في بدني، اللهم عافني في سمعي، اللهم عافني في بصري. لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم عافني في بدني، اللهم عافني في سمعي، اللهم عافني في بصري. لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم عافني في بدني، اللهم عافني في سمعي، اللهم عافني في بصري. لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الكفر والفقر. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من عذاب القبر. لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الكفر والفقر. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من عذاب القبر. لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الكفر والفقر. اللهم إني أعوذ بك من عذاب القبر. لا إله إلا أنت. اللهم رحمتك أرجو فلا تكلني إلى نفسي طرفة عين وأصلح لي شأني كله لا إله إلا أنت سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته سبحان الله وبحمده عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق أعوذ بكلمات الله التامات من شر ما خلق
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Please come closer inshallah. We'll be having the question and answer session. Can you move this out of the way? So there are many questions that came in. Inshallah, we'll try to get through as many within the time we have. Alhamdulillah. Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'una wanfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna ilma. Is my intention sincere if my intention to work is to help my dad financially who is financially burdened? Intention should be for Allah, but I want my father to be happy for the sake of Allah. So this is two things which can be reconciled. You can make an intention to please your father and your actual objective is to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by pleasing your father. It's not either or issue. Because pleasing the father, pleasing the mother, pleasing the parents, or bringing happiness to any Muslim believer itself is an act of worship, is a means of acquiring the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we can make the intention of pleasing someone for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can have both intentions. After we are questioned by the two angels in the grave, what do we do until the day of judgment? So, in the barzakh, in the alam al-barzakh, this is a world between our dunya, this worldly life, and the hereafter. This realm in between is called the world of barzakh. So those, inshaAllah, who will pass the test of the angels, they will inshaAllah be in comfort and will be enjoying the hereafter and the blessings of the hereafter in the grave. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open a window of Jannah in the grave. The breeze of Jannah will come into the grave. They will see their final abode in Jannah in the grave, in this barzakh. And on the other hand, those that fail the test, their torment will begin in the alam al-barzakh itself, whether it's the grave or wherever they may be. النار يعرضون عليها غدوا وعشيا. The fire is presented on Fir'aun and his army in the mornings and evenings. And this is not referring to the fire of Jahannam. This is the ayah in the Quran, in Surah Al-Mu'min. وَيَوْمَ تَقُومُ السَّاعَةُ أَدْخِلُوا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ أَشَدَّ الْعَذَابِ. Then on the day of judgment, Allah will say that enter into an even more severe torment. So this is an ayah which is an ayah in the Quran which proves the adhab of the qabr. Somebody asked, is the adhab of the qabr proven from the Quran? Yes, this is an ayah that's in the Quran, in Surah Al-Mu'min. where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about fire being presented in the mornings and evenings, and then He says that on the Day of Judgment they will be asked to go into even more severe punishment. May Allah protect us all. This brother is asking that Quran is a book for hidayah for all mankind, and if you read it with the niyyah of thawab, is it wrong? Will we not get hidayah then? No, absolutely wrong. We can read it with the niyyah of thawab for receiving reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, it's not either or, that you get thawab or you get hidayah. You can get thawab inshallah and hidayah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nowadays I hear a lot that we should not perform salah or read Quran with the niyyah and expectation of thawab. We are supposed to do it, so we do it. Please explain on why we should not do it with the thawab niyyah. That is not necessarily correct. That's not correct. We should have the intention of thawab. We are doing these actions to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we hope in the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is not the case. Assalamu alaikum. My wife has student loans which are more than the jewelry she owns. I know she can receive zakat. Can she actively find people who are paying zakat and use those funds to pay off the student loans? Would this be appropriate, or would this be like begging? So it depends on the behavior. If somebody is actually paying off all of the student loans as soon as possible within the first few months, or first month if possible, if not few months, and do not want to accrue interest on those loans, and is not buying a house, not buying a car, not buying anything of this worldly life, and is on the bare minimum lifestyle just to pay off these loans, then they can deduct the entire amount of the loan and consider it as a debt and would be deserving of zakat. But if they are not worried about it and they're just paying the monthly payment and they're going ahead and living a life as if they are not in debt at all, then it's not permissible to deduct the entire amount of the loan. At most they could deduct the monthly payment. Then they will not be deserving of zakat. This is a question about the beard which we covered yesterday. I have two questions. When someone decides, number one, when someone decides to read Quran most of the time, even skipping most of the nawafil and dhikr and dua, will he get more reward, or is it advisable to do all of these together to get more rewards? Okay, I think this question is based on the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that man shaghalahu al-Qur'an an dhikri wa mas'alati a'taytuhu afdala ma u'tiya as-sa'ilin. وَفَضْلُ كَلَامِ اللَّهِ عَلَى سَائِرِ الْكَلَامِ كَفَضْلِ اللَّهِ عَلى سَائِرِ خَلْقِهِ. That the one whose time, all of his time is preoccupied in reciting the Qur'an, and he's so busy in reciting the Qur'an that he does not even have time to make my dhikr and to make dua to me, then I will give him and I will grant him better than that which I am granting those who are making dua to me. And the superiority of the word of Allah over all other words is like my superiority over the entire creation, or the superiority of Allah over the entire creation. So this hadith means that literally if a person is reciting so much Qur'an that every single waking instant and moment of his life that he's awake, in a wakeful state, he is busy with Qur'an. From the moment he opens his eyes, he starts reciting the Qur'an all the way till he sleeps. If that is the case, then definitely he would be in a greater reward and he will receive more benefits than the one engaged in other dhikr and other du'as. But for the vast majority, if not everyone nowadays, remaining in that state of continually reciting the Qur'an at all times is difficult even for the huffaz of the Qur'an. So since we are not able to recite the Qur'an non-stop, this hadith will not apply to us. Rather, we would be considered among those who are reciting the Qur'an some part of the time. So therefore, it would be better for us to perform nawafil salah too, and to make dhikr and to make dua and diversify the different forms of worship, so we are not limiting ourselves only to tilawat of Qur'an. That is the correct meaning of that hadith. Is it a sunnah to not take a bath while in sunnah itikaf, or is it that we have to just reduce the time to take bath? If it is sunnah, do we have any hadith from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to support this? So it's not that not taking a bath is sunnah, that is not the case. Rather, not leaving the masjid boundary is sunnah. So if it is possible in the times in the past that to take a bath while remaining in the masjid, like in a bucket, and make sure that the water stays or in a tub they would bring into the courtyard of the masjid, which would be considered part of the masjid, and you take a bath and the water does not spill into the masjid, and then it is later on emptied out outside the masjid boundary by someone else, then it would be permissible to take a bath, just normal baths as well, within the masjid boundary, without dirtying the masjid. But such facilities are not here where we can take a bath inside the prayer area of the masjid. But the permissibility is there for the ghusl for Friday, because of the istihbab and the sunnah of hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to take the ghusl for Friday. Many of the concepts in Aqidah are very deep and complicated that I think it would be very difficult for the average Muslim to understand. Is it enough to just believe in Allah and His oneness and in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? This was covered in the Aqidah class. So many of the youth, they attend, mashallah, the question and answer session downstairs in the night. Also in the morning, you participate in the Q&A session. But there's a lot of slackness when it comes to attending the Aqidah class. So we should attend the Aqidah class that takes place, because I spoke to the Mufti who does the Aqidah class, and he mentioned that he did cover this already in the Aqidah class, that there is Iman Mujmal, Iman in brief. And that is Amantu billahi kama huwa bi asma'ihi wa sifatihi wa qabiltu jami'a ahkami. I believe in Allah the way He is, with all His names and attributes, and I accept all of His commands. So this is Iman in brief, without going into all the details. And is that Iman acceptable? It is acceptable. The more a person has objections and studies philosophy, and then those questions arise, then he needs the answers to those questions, and then he has to learn Iman in detail and Aqidah in detail. Allama Juwaini rahmatullahi alayhi mentioned, as was mentioned in the Aqidah seminar already, that sufficient for salvation is Iman wa ajaizi Nishapur. The Iman and the belief and the conviction without any doubt of the old woman of the city of Nishapur. What he meant by that was, this was a religious city, and the old women, ajais are old women, so they don't know all the intricate details of Aqidah and the different sects and the different beliefs and the proofs and the evidences and the counter-proofs and the answers and all of that. They're not into all the theoretical things in detail, but rather they just have a solid belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is sufficient as well. But if a person is facing challenges to his Aqidah, then he has to know the answers to those challenges. That is why it is important that we learn Aqidah as well. What were we before we were humans? I heard we were asked to be humans or angels, and we chose to be humans. So this is incorrect. Wherever this brother heard this, there is no evidence that we were given a choice whether to be humans or angels, and then we chose to be humans. Rather, we were created humans by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and before we came into this world, there was a world where all the souls were gathered. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created all the souls that are going to come into this world till the end of time of human beings, and they are together in one world known as Alamul Arwah, the realm of the souls. And whenever a child is conceived and is developing as a fetus in the womb of his mother, his or her mother, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dispatches the soul from the Alam al-Arwah, and it comes into the womb of the mother, into the fetus that is developing. And then the child body comes into this world, is delivered along with the soul and that is the soul with the body. And the child grows up and lives his life. And then when death comes, that is a separation of the soul from the body. The soul leaves the body and returns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the body is left behind. And that is termed as death. How old do you have to be in order to become baligh? So for a girl, it is when she starts menstruating, she will become baligh. For a boy, it is when he has his first wet dream, he will become baligh. Baligh means physically mature and now responsible to follow all the injunctions of the Sharia. And if there is some problem with the hormones and they do not grow and they do not show signs of puberty, then 15 lunar years, which would be around 14 years and some 8-9 months of the solar calendar. Then at the age of 15, they will be considered baligh, even if they are not displaying any signs of puberty because of any deficiency in growth hormone or etc., some hormonal issue. They will still be considered baligh and an adult and responsible for all injunctions of Sharia at the age of 15 lunar years. Would it be permissible to get married to a non-practicing Ismaili Muslim? How and what should one do to help them convert to Sunni Islam if they are open to it? Yes, so it is not permissible to get married to an to Ismaili Muslim. They are not Muslims. They have very deviant beliefs which are out of the fold of Islam by all counts and standards. Ismailis are definitely not Muslims. They're a sect from the Shia, and we should try our best to invite them towards Islam, but in a proper manner without ourselves falling into sin. If they are from the opposite gender, we're not having extended phone calls and conversations with the intention of trying to guide this sister towards Islam. That could lead ourselves into sin. She should be guided with others. She could be different ulama, scholars, if they have time, imams, or other women who are educated in Islam could talk to her and guide her towards Islam. The question is, why don't I not see more Maliki and Hanbali brothers around? So basically the madhab of Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi is spread more in West Africa, in Northwest Africa. So where there are North African brothers and sisters, then you'll find more Maliki madhab. The Hanbali madhab is the least number of followers from all the four madhab. The madhab that is followed the most throughout the world is the Hanafi madhab. All the three madhabs put together are still less than the Hanafis in the world. And there are many factors for that, as the rulers, the Abbasi Khulafa, were all Hanafi fuqaha, and it became the fiqh of the entire Islamic state of the Abbasi Khilafat for centuries. And the Hanafi madhab spread in the east and is in Iraq, where it was born, as well as in Egypt, and then Eastern Asian countries all the way. So that's why you find more of them. The Hanbalis are mostly in Saudi Arabia. They used to be Hanbali, but many of them have now become Salafi. That is where they are limited to. So if you go to West Africa, Northwest Africa, there you'll find more Maliki brothers. Should you say Ameen when the Imam praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, you do not say Ameen when the Imam praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You say Ameen when the dua is made, then you can say Ameen. If you're not in Salah, then you can say Ameen. Or if you're in Salah after Surah Fatiha, you can say Ameen, either softly or loudly, as the two madhab are there. Also, should you say Ameen while the khutbah is going on? You can say Ameen softly in your heart. You should not say loud Ameen, because when the khutbah is going on, in the second khutbah the du'as are made, you say Ameen softly. There are many strict ahadith about not speaking loudly or saying anything when the khutbah starts. Even if somebody is talking and you tell him, please be quiet, the khutbah is going on, that is not permitted. To say be quiet. Man qala li akhihi unsut faqad laqa. When someone is speaking and you tell them, please be quiet, then that itself is wrong. It's a sin to say that. إِذَا خَرَجَ الْإِمَامُ فَلَا صَلَاةَ وَلَا كَلَامَ. When the Imam goes out of the saf to start the khutbah, then there is no salah, then there is no speech. Is it permissible to send salawat on the Prophet ﷺ in the khutbah? When the Imam says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِي, verily Allah and the angels send salawat on the Nabi, O those who believe, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. O those who believe, you also send salawat on the Nabi, then we should say salawat softly in our hearts. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. We should not loudly send salawat during the khutbah. We should say it softly in our hearts. We should not speak at all during the khutbah. Yeah, we should just completely ignore everyone and focus on the khutbah. Can non-dini poetry be recited in a melodious voice? So poetry that's dini can be recited in a melodious voice, that are called anashid. And that which is non-dini includes that which could be permissible and that which is impermissible. So if it is permissible poetry, it's just general poetry about life and in general, and positive ideas are being expressed that are encouraging and uplifting and inspiring. Such type of poetry can be recited in melodious voice. But two things: as long as they are not, it does not have any obscenities and vulgar type of language, and number two is that if it does not have any words of shirk, like calling out, as it came in the previous question, Ya Ali, Ya Ali. So that is a word of shirk, calling out to someone besides Allah to come to your aid. If you stole merchandise from a store, how do you pay them back? Then you should find out how it's possible to return the item to the person that you stole and ask Allah Ta'ala for forgiveness. If you just ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for forgiveness without returning the item, then it would not be forgiven. You can return it back to them. If you don't want to go, then you can perhaps mail it back to them, mail it back to their head office, and make sure it's not traceable back to you. What or how do you educate someone about Islam if they are curious about it and would possibly want to convert? So if this is someone of the same gender, then you continue with this. If this is someone from the opposite gender, then you should find someone of their gender to talk to them. Because many times we have this so-called intention of trying to guide someone, and we end up developing long relationships with the members of the opposite gender. So you can guide them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make dua for them, sincere dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who guides. And depending on their perspective, if they are Christians, then there are different testimonials and books written by Christians who converted to Islam. That always helps. So they can learn from Christians who accepted Islam, talking about the fallacies of the Bible and what they are believing in, the Trinity, and how the Bible changed. If they are someone coming from an atheistic background, then you have to approach them differently. Someone, depending on their background. So this is a very general question. How do you guide a person? Depending on what their current belief is, you will approach them that way. What should I do when I know that my Muslim brother is eating haram via non-zabiha meat in front of me, but he believes this is halal? So we have to use hikmah and wisdom. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Udu ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah wal maw'ithatil hasana." Invite towards the path of Allah with wisdom and beautiful counsel. So you have to approach him and explain to him, learn yourself the details about this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a deen which is a complete way of life. Our deen does not just tell us how to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what to believe in, but rather gives us detailed injunctions regarding every aspect of our life, including what we eat. And there are certain things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal for us, and certain things which Allah has made haram for us. Allah ta'ala says, "Kulu mimma razaqakum Allah halalan tayyiba." Eat that which is halal and pure for you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made meat halal for us with certain conditions. That it is a halal animal, and then it is slaughtered in the correct manner, and then the slaughter is either a Muslim or a person of the book. And the name of Allah is taken when the slaughtering is done. Then the animal will be halal. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the meat of the Ahlul Kitab halal for us if they slaughter the animal in the correct manner, and they take the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why is the meat of the Ahlul Kitab made halal? What is the Ahlul Kitab? The people of the book, the Yahud and the Nasara, the Jews and the Christians. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَطَعَامُ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ حِلٌّ لَكُمْ. And the meat of the Ahlul Kitab is halal for you. So why Ahlul Kitab? Are they different from the Mushrikeen? Are they going to Jannah and the Mushrikeen are going to Jahannam? No, rather Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the Ahlul Kitab and the Mushrikeen together, that both will go to the Jahannam. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ وَالْمُشْرِكِينَ فِي نَارِ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا أُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ شَرُّ الْبَرِيَّةِ. In Surah Al-Bayyinah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, verily those who are the disbelievers, whether they are Ahlul Kitab or Mushrikeen, they are going towards the fire of Jahannam, and they are the Sharul Bariya, the worst of the creation. So, the Ahlul Kitab are definitely not special with regards to the Akhirah. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ وَالْمُشْرِكِينَ. Ahlul Kitab and Mushrikeen are together. So why is it that their meat is halal? It is because the Mushrikeen used to eat dead meat as well, carrion as well. And the Ahlul Kitab would never eat dead meat. The Mushrikeen would eat even swine or any animal, and the Ahlul Kitab were not eating swine, because the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, both had declared that swine and pig was haram for them. Later on they made it halal. So whatever Muslims eat meat, they would eat the same meat. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا مِمَّا لَمْ يُذْكَرِ اسْمُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ. Do not eat any meat upon which the name of Allah is not taken. And these people believed in that Allah, the same Allah that revealed the Torah and Musa, and the same Allah that revealed the Injil and Isa, they believed in Him. But the reason that they are with the mushrikeen in the fire then is because they disbelieve in Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the Prophet of Allah. They disbelieved in the last Prophet. But they used to take the name of Allah when they would slaughter the animal. They would say, in the name of Allah, the one who revealed the Torah and Musa. So which Allah is that? It's the same Allah we believe in. And the same Allah that revealed the Injil on Isa. Again, they have problems with their aqidah. What's the problem? The problem is that they believe Isa is the son of Allah. Na'udhu billah. It's a very major problem of shirk. But if you limit it to when they say in the name of Allah, then which Allah they're speaking about? The same Allah that we believe in. That's it. After that, there's problems. They don't believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They don't believe, and they believe in fact that Jesus is the son of Allah. Na'udhu billah. So since they're eating the same animals that we eat, since they take the name of Allah, the same Allah that we take the name of Allah, and number 3 is they would slaughter in the same manner that we slaughter. They would ensure that all the blood comes out, and they would sever 3 of the 4 vessels. The carotid artery, the jugular vein, this is the main artery for taking the blood from the heart to the head, and the big major vein returning the venous blood from the head back to the heart. And then the trachea and the esophagus, the food pipe and the air pipe. From these 4, they would cut 3 out of the 4. They would slaughter in that manner. They would not kill an animal in any other manner, by strangulation or by a violent blow, by hitting it on his head. They would slaughter in the same manner. So they would fulfill all the conditions that we have for our slaughter. Take the name of Allah, eat the halal animal, and slaughter it in the correct manner. So since they would fulfill the same conditions that we would fulfill, or we are asked to fulfill, therefore their meat was halal. And therefore their meat still would be halal if they fulfill the same conditions. But they started eating pork as well. They started eating all of haram things. And on top of that, even the halal animals, they stopped slaughtering in the correct manner. Nor did they take the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anymore. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةِ. Mayta is haram for you. Mayta is mentioned even before khinzir, pig and swine. حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمُ وَلَحْمُ الْخِنْزِيرِ. Pig and swine is number 3 on the list. First is mayta, then dam, blood, flowing blood, and then number 3 is swine and pig. So this is one ayah of the Quran. That is one of the last ayats that was revealed on this topic in Surah Al-Ma'idah. And what is the definition of mayta? Mayta is any animal which is not slaughtered in the correct Islamic manner, and it dies otherwise. Whether it dies by natural death, dies out of sickness, dies out of dehydration, dies out of being attacked by another animal. Wal munkhaniqa is one animal with its horn, it attacks another animal like wild goats in the mountains, and then one goat dies by being pierced by the horn of another one. That's haram. Wal mawquda, that animal which dies from a violent blow. Wal mutaraddiya is that animal which falls off a cliff and it rolls over and dies by falling down off a high place. Wal natiha is that animal which dies from being Munatiha is the animal that dies, that one animal attacks the other animal and pierces it and kills it with his horn. Munkhaniqa is the animal which dies from strangulation. All of these are haram. So this is one ayah of the Quran that declares that mayta is haram. And the other ayah of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَطَعَامُ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ حِلٌّ لَكُمْ. And the meat of the Ahl Kitab is halal for you. So if the Ahl Kitab, if they start eating mayta, would the mayta become halal just because Ahl Kitab are eating? No. Likewise, if the Ahl Kitab eat khinzir, will we say, which ayah takes precedence? The ayah that says that khinzir is haram, or the ayah that says that whatever the Ahl Kitab eat is halal? So we will say, one ayah says khinzir, pork is haram. The other ayah says whatever the meat of the Ahl Kitab is halal. So if the Ahl Kitab, the Jews and Christians, they eat pork. The Christians eat pork and Reformed Jews eat pork too. They have kosher pork. So which a rabbi told me, and I heard directly from the rabbi, that they have in the Reform form of the Judaism, not the conservative and nor the Orthodox, but just the Reformed Jews, they even eat pork. So you don't have to go to the Reformed Jews. It's very clear that the Christians eat pork and have been eating for centuries. So are we going to say, طَعَامُ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ حِلٌّ لَكُمْ, whatever meat the Ahl Kitab eat is halal? Or are we going to say, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمُ وَلَحْمُ الْخِنْزِيرِ, the meat of the khinzir is haram? First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Do you not ponder and reflect over the Qur'an? If it was from anyone besides Allah, there would have been contradiction. But there is no contradiction in the Qur'an. So here, we might see an apparent contradiction. One ayah says that it's haram, one ayah says it's halal. So the only way we can resolve this contradiction is by coming to the conclusion that the Ahl Kitab were not eating pork at that time. And we'll say the Ahl Kitab were not supposed to eat pork, and nor were the Ahl Kitab eating mayta, animals which are not slaughtered properly. They were eating properly slaughtered animals upon which the name of Allah was taken. Allah is saying, eat the meat of the Ahl Kitab. And Allah is also saying, do not eat the meat upon which the name of Allah is not taken. وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا مِمَّا لَمْ يُذْكَرِ اسْمُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ. Do not eat the meat upon which the name of Allah is not taken. If the name of Allah is not taken, it's haram. The meat of Ahl Kitab is halal. So someone will say there's a contradiction here. Meat of Ahl Kitab is halal and the animal upon which the name of Allah is not taken is haram. There is a contradiction. No, there is no contradiction. Only way there can be no contradiction is if the Ahl Kitab were taking the name of Allah. If the Ahl Kitab were taking the name of Allah, so then there is the ayats fit in perfectly. One ayat saying if the name of Allah is not taken, it's haram. Okay, it's haram. The meat of Ahl Kitab is halal. Yeah, it's halal. Why? Because they are taking the name of Allah. So till today, if any Christian or Jew, he says, I believe in God, even though he says, I don't believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I believe in God, I believe in Allah, I believe in, Allah is the Arabic name for God. Even in the Christian Bible that is in the Arabic language, like from Lebanon, Lebanon is a country, an Arabic speaking country in the Middle East which has a majority Christian population. Muslims are a minority in Lebanon. There are more Christian Lebanese than Muslim Lebanese. And then those that are Muslim Lebanese, majority are Shia, and then minority are Sunni. And then you have 10% Christians in Egypt, in the Qibtis, the Egyptian Coptic Church. So they have Arabic Bibles. So in the Arabic Bible, how do they write God? In the Arabic Bible, they use the word Allah for God in the Arabic Bible. That's what Allah means. So this is something interesting. If you talk to non-Muslims, you can demystify the word Allah. They think, what is Allah? And many of these evangelicals, they spread this misinformation. They say that Allah is some moon goddess, Allat. They take Allat and they make it into Allah, and they say that the Muslims worship the pagan god of the Arabs from the era of ignorance in Jahiliyyah. Na'udhu billah. Allah is actually the same word which is the same Allah that revealed Tawrat and Musa, same Allah that revealed the Injil on Isa alayhi salam. So there is no contradiction. So even till today, if a Jew or Christian slaughters an animal in the proper manner and it takes the name of God, then that animal will be halal. No one can say it's haram. But that is not what's happening in the marketplace. What's happening outside is that the animals are not slaughtered, number one, in the Islamic manner, and nor is the name of Allah taken by the slaughterers. So that's why what they're eating, that meat is called carrion. It's called maita. It is not madhbuh. It is not slaughtered in the correct manner, therefore it would be haram. So we have to understand that, and then we have to convey that. If you go to the Darul Islam Foundation website, under the audio section, under seminars, there's a whole seminar on this topic for 1.5 hours that talks about this. You can listen to it, inshallah, and benefit, inshallah. It's about halal versus zabiha. What's the whole debate about halal versus zabiha? The question is, can you finish the Quran and give the thawab as a hadiyah, as a gift, what you have read to your elders who are no longer in this world? And can one benefit their deceased parents after death? Yes, this is possible, that you recite the Quran and you make the niyyah and you say that Allahumma awsal thawab hadha al-Quran ila ruhi fulan. O Allah, allow the thawab of the khatam of this Quran to reach the soul of so-and-so deceased, and they are eagerly looking forward to gifts from us. We should do that. What is a sutra and how do we need to use one when we pray? A sutra is basically when you are performing salah in a place where people are passing in front of you, and it is possible that people will pass in front of you and you do not want to incur difficulty upon them and make them fall into sin. Then what you can do is that you place a sutra right in front of you. And the sutra is a barrier that is that people who are walking, if they walk in front of that marker, then they're okay, they're not sinful. So preferably it's something vertical, like a stick would be planted into the ground. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would plant a stick into the sand, and then he would perform salah. And the sutra, which is a stick planted in the ground for the imam, would be sufficient for all of the followers. Every single muqtadi doesn't have to have his own sutra. And now if anyone passes in front, they will not be sinful. If you don't have anything that's vertical, then you can, in extreme scenarios, then you can just make a line in the sand in front of you, or put something even horizontal and lay it down on the floor. Yeah, it should be just be a few feet high is fine. That's why in many places people, if there are, alhamdulillah, there's no pillars in this hall, but in many masajid, if there are pillars, then you can perform salah by a pillar or behind a chair. You should not try to perform salah in such a condition that you are making it difficult for people who are trying to pass. This is something to watch out for. Many times people, they pray right in front of the door and start the nafil in salah. So that it becomes difficult for people to exit. That's not something that is good etiquette. Can you eat with your left hand if you are left-handed and it is hard to eat with your right hand? So you should try your best to try to eat with your right hand, because Rasulullah ﷺ has strongly emphasized this. It is not just a sunnah of habit, but rather Rasulullah ﷺ has mentioned that the shaitan eats with his left hand. So we should try our best to eat with the right hand. And if not, with training, Allah will make it easy, inshallah. Allah Ta'ala will give you further reward. As it is more difficult for you, then you will have more reward than the one for whom it comes naturally. Is there any fine line of praising others and making others feel good about themselves and kibr, pride? Basically, the balance of humbleness, humility, and self-satisfaction. So it's kind of confusing, the question, because it started off by talking about praising others and making others feel good about themselves, and then kibr, humility and self-satisfaction. So we should, basically, I talked about this earlier in the context of another question, that whatever good we have within ourselves, we should be confident about it, but we attribute it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, this is a blessing from Allah that I have this wealth, this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I have this health, this is the blessing of Allah, I have this beauty, that I have this talent, that I have this intelligence. Whatever the blessing is, you attribute it back to Allah. Don't think it's something that you have on your own, that you deserved it. And if you believe that it's your own and that you are better than others and others are less than you, then it becomes kibr. But if you don't consider yourself better than others and you say, this is a blessing from Allah, He granted to me and He can take it away from me. He can snatch the blessing away from me whenever He wishes. And He can give it to the next person. And I'll be judged based on my ending, and my ending is unknown. I hope to die as a Muslim. I don't know if I am so pious and righteous now, then how will I die? Therefore, I cannot be confident about my final abode. If that is our condition, inshallah, we will always remain humble. What does Islam say about qawalis? So qawalis is different type of genre of songs and music in which the name of Allah is taken in praises on Rasulullah ﷺ, along with different shirky things as well, where they call upon the different dwellers of the graves and the different pious individuals, and it is sung with full instruments and music. That's why, because of the content of what is being said, which includes a lot of shirk, as well as the musical instruments that are played with it, it is something that must be avoided and it is not permissible. If a person does good deeds and bad deeds, but he does not have 100% iman, will he pass the questions of the grave? So we have to work on our iman, because what is in the reality in the heart, that will come out in the grave. Meaning when the questions will be asked from us, that man rabbuk, who is your Lord, then what we actually believed in this life and how we translated that belief into action, that is the reality which will come out. If we actually believed that Allah was providing for us, then we will say, Rabbi Allah, my Rabb is Allah. Ma dinuk, what is your deen? If we actually followed Islam, then we will say Dinun al-Islam. And if we genuinely follow the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ, when the question will be asked, Man nabiyuk, who is your Nabi, or Man hadha rajul, who is this man, we will be able to recognize Rasulullah ﷺ. So the reality in the heart will come out on that time. This is a question that if you decide to forgive somebody, but you still use what they said or did as motivation to get better, such as in a workout, is that permissible? So he's saying that the anger that he feels from the way someone hurt him is a motivating factor. It helps that anger, is channeling it into his workout. That's really not a healthy way to do it. A person genuinely, if he forgives somebody, then he should try to control that anger and get rid of that anger, and not continue to fester that anger and keep the anger in the heart and use it to motivate him to exercise. You can have other motivation for exercise. I have a question about dargahs. Is there a concept of dargahs in Islam? I was in Hyderabad for the first time and saw so many people going to places like these for their problems. So this person visited his family. Apparently, he's based on the handwriting, is a younger brother who asking this question. So he probably visited Hyderabad. He's not from there. He's born here. And when he went there, he saw people going to dargahs. Dargahs are graves of awliya, graves of pious people. So going to the graves of pious people for problems, this is not something which is in our tawheed that we believe. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. O Allah, we seek only help from you, and we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So we should not, the awliya were very pious individuals and they worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is why they got a close rank to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we believe in awliya, and we say, Allah inna awliya Allah la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. They are beloved to Allah, and they are very, very pious individuals, and they definitely had barakah. But when it comes to seeking help, we seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not seek help from anyone beside Allah. إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Only from you we seek help. So people go to the dargahs and they make sajda to the dargah, complete sajda like we make in salah. Like we make in every rakat 2 sajdas, they make sajda to the graves. Some people make tawaf 7 times around the grave. And some people, they take flowers and put on the grave, and they believe this is a means of a reward, and ask the dweller in the grave to grant them a son or cure their daughter or give them health or victory over their enemy, or in the court case that they're stuck in, or whatever problems they have, they ask the dwellers of the grave to help. So this is something which we have to abstain from. This question, Salam, what is said in the calligraphy within the dome and throughout the masjid? So this calligraphy is basically different ayats of the Quran. If you go all the way in the top of the dome, where the bottom of the chandelier is, the center of the chandelier is hanging from, there it's written, Inna Allah yumsiku as-samawati wal arda an tazula. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone who is holding up the heavens from falling down. So the reason this ayat is put all the way in the top, in the center, at the top, the ultimate top of the dome, in the center where the base of the chandelier comes out from. It is, in our deen, it is not permissible to have, to take false omen, bad omens, and say that, oh, there was a crow, therefore there will be failure coming my way today because a crow passed, or that, the 13th number is an unlucky number. Friday the 13th is a bad day. So this is not permissible in our deen. On the contrary, to take a good omen and consider it a good sign, this is permissible in our deen. And it's proven that Rasulullah ﷺ was sitting with the Sahaba and they're discussing a matter, and then one Sahabi enters and he said, oh, it's Yasir. And then he said, then this is a sign that Yusr and ease will come for us. Because Yasir means ease, Yusr. So this is a good omen. Inna Allah yumsiku samawat. Allah is holding up the heavens. So we hope He'll hold up the dome and hold up the chandelier so it doesn't come crashing on our heads. All right. And then in the drum of the dome is the ayat, Lillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fi al-ard. وَإِن تُبْدُوا مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوْ تُخْفُوهُ يُحَاسِبْكُم بِهِ اللَّهُ فَيَغْفِرُ لِمَن يَشَاءُ وَيُعَذِّبُ مَن يَشَاءُ وَاللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ, till the end of Surah Al-Baqarah, the last 3 ayats of Surah Al-Baqarah. And the reason it's above our heads is to remind us of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that one day he heard a huge creaking sound, and then everyone heard it. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, today such a door has opened in the heavens that was never opened before. And from it an angel descended, which had never descended before. And he brought some ayat upon me, that like of which had never been revealed upon any prophet before. And those are the ayats, Lillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fi al-ard, till the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. Then in the front it's pretty obvious, hopefully we can read that it says Allah and Muhammad in the big 2 medallions. But then after that it says Allah in the center, and then it has the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala around. But based on we had 6 places for 6 names in each medallion. 6 compartments, and we had Allah in the center. And times how many medallions we had some extra space beyond 99 compartments. So that's why in the beginning we added, like from 3 o'clock it says Allah, then it says in the first medallion, La ilaha illa hu lahul asma'ul husna. Right? Allah, there's no one worthy of worship besides Him, He has the beautiful names. So this is introducing the series of names. And then in the second medallion, the 3 o'clock, it starts with huwa. That's the subject of the sentence, the mubtada. That's the subject, huwa, He is. And then who is He? The predicate of the sentence is the following 99 names. Huwa, He is, it just says huwa. You see the 3 o'clock, it says huwa, ha, wa, huwa. Huwa means He is. Huwa is a pronoun, it means He. Huwa, He is Ar-Rahman. And He is also Ar-Rahim, and He's also Al-Malik Al-Quddus, As-Salam Al-Mu'min Al-Muhaymin Al-Aziz Al-Jabbar Al-Mutakabbir Al-Khaliq, all the way to Warith Al-Rashid Al-Sabur. Badi Al-Baqi Al-Warith Al-Rashid Al-Sabur. On my left hand side, the series of 99 names end. So many places they have 99, they have the names of Allah, but they have as many as they can fit. But we didn't want to have just as many as we can fit. We wanted to ensure we have all the 99 names. So we planned it such, alhamdulillah, that all the 99 names came in the masjid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then in the back, we had 2 rectangulars, calligraphy pieces. So on top of the 2 windows on the side. So just like in the front, we have Allah and Muhammad. So in the back, we have Qala Allah and Qala Muhammad. 1 ayah and 1 hadith. In the front, on the right is Allah and the left is Muhammad. So in the back is a ayah on the right and a hadith on the left. Now since the series of the the round medallions were all the names of Allah, so that's why in the rectangular ones, we wanted to pick 1 ayah that it pertains to the names of Allah and 1 hadith also that pertains to the names of Allah, to continue the same theme. So that's why on the right it says, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا وَذَرُوا الَّذِينَ يُلْحِدُونَ فِي أَسْمَاءِ سَيُجْزَوْنَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. It says, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. And to Allah belongs the beautiful names. This ayah is very obviously regarding the same topic. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. And to Allah belongs all the beautiful names. Which ones? The ones that are around. فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. So invoke Him, call out to Him by using these names. وَذَرُوا الَّذِينَ يُلْحِدُونَ فِي أَسْمَاءِ. And leave those who are trying to reject Allah's names. And سَيُجْزَوْنَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. They will receive the full punishment for their actions, those who reject the names of Allah. And on the left, there's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the rectangular square, in the rectangular box. إِنَّ لِلَّهِ تِسْعًا isman mi'a illa wahida. Man ahsaha dakhal al-jannah. Verily Allah has 99 names, 100 but one. This is a narration of Bukhari. Man ahsaha dakhal al-jannah. Whoever memorizes them, internalizes them, will enter Jannah. So this is a hadith about the virtue of memorizing the 99 names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then in the courtyard, there is the ayat, not in the courtyard, but in the lobby, the ayat that is there in the semicircle is the ayat, Allahu nuru samawati wal ard, mathala nurihi kamishkatin. And the following ayah after that, fi buyutin adhin Allahu an turfa'. These are the houses of worship that Allah has given permission that they should be erected high. وَيُذْكَرَ فِيهَا اسْمُهُ. In the name of Allah should be taken in these houses. This is one of the house of Allah. يُسَبِّحُ لَهُ فِيهَا بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ. Every morning and every evening, right now in the morning and evening, in these houses of worship, people are praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which people? رِجَالٌ. Such great men come to these houses. This ayah is there. لَا تُلْهِيهِمْ تِجَارَةٌ وَلَا بَيْعٌ. Neither trade nor merchandise beguiles them and turns them away عن ذكر الله, from the dhikr of Allah, وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة, from establishing salah and giving zakah. يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار. They are afraid of the day when the hearts and the eyeballs will be overturned out of fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ليجزيهم الله أحسن ما عملوا. Allah will give them the best reward for their actions. ليجزيهم الله أحسن ما عملوا ويزيدهم من فضله. He will even give them more from His grace. والله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. Allah grants whomsoever He wishes without any measure. So these are the ayats till here is in the semicircle. And then when you enter the masjid from outside, it says on top, Wallahu yad'u ila Dar salam. And Allah Himself is inviting towards Dar salam. And Dar salam is a name of Jannah, the abode of peace. So this is a good omen that Allah is inviting towards Dar salam, and Allah is inviting to this Dar salam and all the masajid for that matter. Allah is inviting towards the masajid. So as you enter the masjid, you read the ayah on top of you in the arch. This is the one that's actually the calligraphy is done in the stone by water jet method. So it's carved in the stone. So it says, Wallahu yad'u ila dar salam. Allah is inviting towards Darus Salam, towards the abode of peace, which is one of the names of Jannah. وَيَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ, on the other side of the arch. And He guides whom He wishes to the straight path. But if you come in, many people don't notice, but in that vestibule area, between the two double doors, which is outside the boundary of the masjid, when you're coming in, and at the top it says, Bismillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah, Allahumma aftahli abwaba rahmatik, which is the dua of entering the masjid, is written there in calligraphy. That, O Allah, in the name of Allah, and peace and salutations on our Prophet of Allah, O Allah, open for me the doors of your mercy, the dua of entering the masjid. And when you want to go out, on the top is written, Allahumma inni asaluka min fadlik, O Allah, I ask from your grace, which is the dua of leaving the masjid. So that is pretty much covers all the calligraphy in the masjid that was asked here. Somebody actually asked about it, so I answered it. This question, how come we cannot eat at non-Zabiya places even though the Quran says that you can eat the meat of the non-Muslims? It doesn't say the meat of non-Muslims, the meat of the Christians and Jews. And we already answered that. Are any other sects of Islam correct? So this is an Aqidah question. We should attend the Aqidah session. We can get all of these Aqidah questions answered. Sects of Islam depends. What do we call a sect? What are we referring to? So there are those who call themselves Muslims, but they're out of the fold of Islam for sure. Like Qadianis, they consider themselves Muslims, they portray themselves as a Muslim community, but they're deniers of the finality of the Prophet of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so they're out of the fold of Islam. And many of the Shia beliefs, if you go in detail, they actually are contrary to our deen and would not be considered, they would take the person out of the fold of Islam. But those who are Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, follow the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the consensus of the Sahaba. There could be minor differences in the fiqh, whether the Hanafiya, whether the Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, these are all Muslims inshallah. They'll all be within the fold of Islam. So we have to study the correct Aqidah in detail and then know what are the principal beliefs to be a correct Muslim. And those that maintain those beliefs, then they have minor differences, they're okay. But those who don't believe in those cardinal principles, they will not be okay. So that is a detailed answer for that. What will happen to the people to whom wahi does not reach? What will happen to them? This was already covered in the Aqidah class, that if wahi does not reach anyone, and they have no means of knowing the correct deen and knowing about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they had no interaction with any Muslims, and they had no opportunity to learn, then they are still mandated only to believe in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As long as they believe in Tawheed, then they will have salvation on the Day of Judgment. And is it allowed to have a home insurance if the house mortgage is already paid off? When it comes to insurance, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that al-halalu bayyin wal-haramu bayyin. Halal is very clear and evident, and haram is very clear and evident. وَبَيْنَهُمَا أُمُورٌ مُشْتَبِهَاتٌ. In between them, there are some things which are doubtful. So, like buying and selling, bay' is halal, and riba, interest, is haram. That's clear. But insurance in the present context, this type of insurance did not exist in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a later day innovation. Not as a bid'ah, I'm saying it's a later day thing that came into existence. So, what is the hukum in the ruling regarding different insurances? That's why you'll have a whole variety of different fatwas. Many scholars, they say that since you are paying a monthly premium and what you're going to get in return is unknown, there's ambiguity, and this type of contract in which there's this high level of ambiguity, you might get, like you're paying car insurance, if nothing happens to your car, you're paying your whole life and you won't get anything back. Someone else has an accident right away and then they get a check and they total their car, they get a check for the entire value of the car. Sometimes the insurance company will pay them $30,000 right away, $40,000, depending on the value of the car. So, there's some say there's elements of riba because you paid only 2 months premium and you got $30,000 check because your car totaled. So how much did you pay? How much money did you get back? Ambiguity is there. Elements of riba is there. So some scholars, they give fatwa that all these insurances are haram. And then others say that ambiguity which leads to conflict makes the transaction void and haram. But if all the fine print is there and they agree to it and they sign it, they say that in these cases my insurance will cover me, in these cases the insurance will not cover me, and they agree to all of those terms, then it should be permissible. So they say it's permissible. Besides life insurance, pretty much every other type of insurance you'll find fatwas of being permissible and fatwas of being impermissible. So if someone avoids it out of taqwa, they will be rewarded for that. If someone does adopt it, we can't say it's haram for sure either. Second question is, well, should we keep complete car insurance for the car or minimum car insurance? So minimum liability insurance, which is necessary to have a driver's license by the different states, that are a requirement, that is definitely permissible. Beyond that, again, some say it's not permissible, some say it's permissible. If someone does avoid it, they will be rewarded. If someone does use it, you can't say for sure it's haram either. If a fasting person eats a dry piece of skin attached to his lip, is his fast nullified? Since he's introducing something into his mouth and it goes down his throat, an outside element which is not from the saliva inside the mouth. A person swallows a saliva in their mouth, they will not nullify their fast at all. But if a dry piece of skin from outside is swallowed, then even if a mustard seed is swallowed from outside, it will break the fast. Can you eat the enzymes of any permissible animal despite the way it's slaughtered? So I believe this question is about rennet, which is used to curdle the milk to make cheese. And this is an enzyme which is taken from the stomach lining of calves. So the young calves, they are slaughtered and then they are opened up, and from the stomach lining this enzyme is taken out and extracted, which is then used to manufacture cheese, which is called rennet. Rennet can also be sourced from microbial rennet, from fungus, but it also comes from animals, bovine and porcine. It comes from pigs as well. So if it comes from a pig source, then it's haram. But if it comes from a permissible animal, then the meat of the animal itself, if it's not slaughtered in the Islamic manner, would be haram, like we already covered. But that enzyme which is in the stomach would be permissible. So rennet from any cow, whether or not it's slaughtered Islamically, would be permissible. Or any goat. There are examples of Rasulullah ﷺ that he ate the cheese that was presented by the Persians, and they were fire worshippers, and they did not slaughter the animal in the correct method. The Rasulullah ﷺ did not eat their meat, but he ate the cheese that they had. So that means that the rennet from the inner lining of the cow or the calf, even if it's slaughtered in Islam, because it is like the milk that comes from the animal, it would be permissible. What vows are permissible in Islam? If you can give some examples, and what is the importance of making a vow? A vow is basically a promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, another, that, oh Allah, if you solve my problem, then I make a vow, I make a promise that I will fast 3 days, or I make a promise to you that I will give so much sadaqah, or I will go for umrah, or I will do this act of worship. And this is a means of presenting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your case, that, oh Allah, please help me in my matter, please help me in fulfilling my needs. It says here, can you add a question section on the DSFND website so that if you have questions after Ramadan, we can ask them as well? So we had a monthly question and answer session or weekly question and answer session, but we had very poor attendance. Now you are locked here for itikaf, so that's why you're sitting here so long. When the shayateen are released, then we are also released. And then it's hard to find people to come and sit in the masjid for so long, imagine. But what you can do is you can email the question to info@dsfnd.org, and one of the muftis will answer your question, inshallah. That's what is always there. The email is always available for answering questions. At the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, did they recite the whole Quran in Taraweeh as we do today? Yes, the entire Quran was recited by Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu anhu. He was selected to be the Imam of the Taraweeh in the Masjid Nabwi, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had given him the title of Aqra'uhum Ubay ibn Ka'b. The greatest Qari amongst my companions is Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu anhu. When we finish reciting the Quran, should we then recite Surah Fatiha or Surah Baqarah before making dua, even when we are reciting alone? Yes, this is the condition, this is the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he would finish the Quran, he would come to min sharri al-waswas al-khannas alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudur an-nas min al-jinnati wan-nas, and complete the recitation of the whole Quran. He would not make a dua there, but rather he would recite Surah Fatiha, then he would recite the beginning ayats of Surah Al-Baqarah all the way to ulaika ala hudam min rabbihim wa ulaika humul muflihun. Then he would stop and pause and make a dua. And he said, Rahimallahu al-hal al-murtahil kullama halla irtahala. May Allah's mercy be on the traveler that is always traveling. When he stops his travel, he restarts it once again. The Sahaba asked, Ma al-hal al-murtahil ya Rasulullah. What do you mean by the traveler who's always traveling? When he stops, he restarts his journey. Then Rasulullah said, that is the one who's traveling through the Quran. When he completes the recitation of one khatam, he doesn't stop, he begins his next recital. So this is not supposed to be a mere tradition, reading up to Muflihun and making dua, but rather it should be in reality, in actuality, the beginning of the next recitation, next khatam. So you don't even make dua after you complete a khatam, you start your next khatam and then make dua, that you physically start the next recitation. Are hair removal products permissible in Islam for men? Yes, hair removal products are permissible in Islam for men, except for the beard, using it for the beard and also for the eyebrows. Other hair of the body can be removed. It's permissible. And dreams we see in the daytime as we are sleeping in the daytime nowadays, do they contain equal significance as the dreams we see at night? Should I consult a scholar for this dream that I saw in the day? Yeah, I mean, dreams at any time could be of different types. One type of dream is called adghath wa ahlam, which are just confused things which have no meaning whatsoever. And then there are ru'ya shaytaniya, those that are come from shaitan, and there are ru'ya rahmaniya, those that are basharat and come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So depending on the type of the dream, it could possibly have some interpretation, even if it's seen in the day. Can we give sadaqat al-fitr to a person who has nisab? No, a person who has nisab is not eligible to receive money of sadaqat al-fitr. What do you do if your Quran is ripped a little, like a page is out a little and not fully connected to the middle of or spine of the Quran? If you can fix it and repair it and glue it or sew it in, that's great. But if it gets very bad condition, then we have to respectfully dispose of the Quran. Not in a place that it will be trampled upon, not in a place that people will desecrate it. And mashallah, this is a very unique service of Furqan Foundation in Bolingbroke. They have a Quran recycling project. So that is something where they take the pages and they de-ink it, and then they recycle the paper after removing the ink of the... So that's a very beautiful Quran recycling project, where used Qurans, don't bring a box of used Qurans and put it in the lobby here, as many times people have done. This is a donation to Dar es Salaam, all torn books. Right? So Islamic books and torn books that are taking up places in their shelves at home, then you just bring it here. Or you bring not CDs, not even MP3 or CDs, boxes of cassettes. The Musallis here saw it for so long. Somebody brought all these Qiraat cassettes, boxes and boxes of cassettes, and left it in the lobby here. So that's just added work for me. You're telling, I have to take care of it and dispose of it. You have to be careful. If you burn it, then what do you do with the ashes? So you should burn. Yeah. So it's still, burning is not necessarily the best idea either. There's some prohibition of burning as well. Why should men? He's not asking if men can get ear piercings. He's saying, why should men not get piercings? Everyone should get piercings. The answer is that this is very important in our day and age, when the gender identity is becoming more and more blurred, is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ الْمُتَشَبِّهَاتِ بِالرِّجَالِ وَلَعَنَ اللَّهُ الْمُتَشَبِّهِينَ بِالنِّسَاءِ. The curse of Allah descends on those men who adopt the unique attributes of women, and the curse of Allah descends on those women who adopt the unique attributes of men. So nowadays, many women have cutting their hair very short, wearing jeans or other clothing of men, or acting as much adopting many masculine traits, and then many men are adopting feminine traits and characteristics. So this is something which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had warned and said the curse of Allah descends on men who adopt things of women, attributes of women. So earrings and piercings, this form of jewelry and adornment, this is something which is for women. Yes, in Jannah the men will have bangles of gold and will have adornments of gold, but that is in Jannah. Gold and silk is permissible for women and Allah has made it haram for men. Inshallah, we have reached 5 o'clock, so we will continue with these questions. There's still so many questions, alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward the brothers for seeking knowledge. May Allah ta'ala give us the tawfiq to make amal what was said, give us the correct understanding of the deen. Inshallah, we will recite Surah Yasin and make dua. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.